Let's talk about the toothache. I mean, there's really no other pain quite like it, is there? It can mess up your sleep, totally ruin your day, and honestly, it can fill even the toughest person with this unique kind of dread. But have you ever really stopped and wondered what's actually going on deep inside your tooth to cause all that misery? Well, today, we're going to get to the root of the problem.
It's a totally fair question. The pain just feels completely out of proportion to this tiny little spot in your mouth. It's not just some simple ache. It can be this intense, throbbing, just all-consuming experience. And the answer? Well, the answer is a pretty dramatic story of biology, invasion, and a full-on battle happening inside a space smaller than your pinky nail.
So, to understand the pain, we first have to go inside the tooth itself. Because, and you might not think about them this way, your teeth aren't just dead pieces of rock in your head. Oh no. They are living, breathing, dynamic organs.
Right in the center of it all is the dental pulp. And this is really the star of our show. It's this soft tissue deep inside all the hard outer layers, and it is packed with everything that makes a tissue alive. We're talking nerves for feeling, blood vessels for nutrition. You can really think of it as the tooth's command center, its life support system, all rolled into one. Okay, so here's what makes the pulp and its pain so unique. When any other part of your body gets inflamed, what does it do? It swells up, right? Well, the pulp is trapped. It's stuck inside these rigid, unyielding walls of dentin. So when it gets inflamed, it has literally nowhere to go. That confinement creates this insane amount of pressure, and that is a huge reason for the intense pain. On top of that, it doesn't have a backup blood supply, which makes it incredibly vulnerable once it gets hurt. All right, so now that we've met our hero, the pulp, let's introduce the villain of our story, bacteria. They're always hanging around, just looking for a way in, trying to breach the tooth's defenses. Now, the most common way in, as you might guess, is a deep cavity. But it's definitely not the only one. A crack, even one that's totally microscopic, can be like a superhighway for bacteria to march right in. This is why even a tiny little chip or an old filling that started to leak can eventually spiral into a massive, painful problem. But the invasion isn't always a slow burn. Sometimes it's sudden. A big impact from, say, a sports injury or an accident can do something catastrophic. It can literally sever the tiny little blood vessels at the very tip of the root. And just like that, the pulp's entire blood supply is cut off. In that case, the pulp dies, not from an infection, but basically from strangulation.
And speaking of trauma, just how fragile is that connection? Well, get this. If a tooth gets knocked out completely, this is your window of time, less than 60 minutes. After that, the special cells that anchor it to your jaw begin to die off, and the chance of saving that tooth just plummets.
So, the pulp is irritated, or maybe it's infected. How does it let you know something is seriously wrong? Well, it has two very distinct alarm systems. Think of them as two different types of nerve fibers that send completely different kinds of signals to your brain. Let's meet the alars. First up, you've got the A-delta fibers. These guys are the first alert system. They're the ones that fire off that quick, sharp, zinging pain when you drink something ice cold. It definitely gets your attention, but then it goes away pretty fast. Then you have the C fibers. This is the deep siren. They're responsible for that awful, dull, throbbing, lingering ache that just will not quit. It's a clear signal of much deeper inflammation and actual tissue damage. So these two alarms, they translate directly to a real dental diagnosis. This is actually how you can decode what your tooth is trying to tell you. If you feel a short, sharp pain from cold that vanishes right away, that's called reversible pulpitis. It's your A-delta fibers firing a warning shot, but the pulp can still be saved. But if the pain is that dull, throbbing ache that just hangs around, that's your C fibers screaming for help. This is symptomatic, irreversible pulpitis, and it means the pulp is damaged beyond the point of no return. Okay, so you've got this throbbing pain, but now, all of a sudden, your ear is killing you too. Or maybe your sinuses feels like it's on fire. What in the world is going on? Are you just imagining it?
No, you are absolutely not imagining it. This is a very real thing called referred pain. See, the pulp doesn't have the kind of nerves that can tell your brain exactly where the problem is. So the signals can get their wires crossed on the way to the brain. Your brain gets this powerful pain signal, but it kind of misinterprets where it's coming from. So yeah, that awful throbbing pain in your ear could very well be coming from a bad lower molar.
So what happens when that irreversible pulpitis, that deep, throbbing pain, is left untreated? Well, the battle inside the tooth is officially lost, and the infection starts to look for an escape route.
The pulp tissue dies. The official term is pulp necrosis. And here's the weird part. That throbbing pain might actually go away for a little while. Why? Because the nerves inside the tooth are now dead, so the tooth goes silent. A dentist can put ice on it and you won't feel a thing. But this is just the quiet before the storm, because those bacteria are now multiplying like crazy, completely unchecked inside this dead space.
Eventually, that raging infection spills out of the tiny little hole at the tip of the root and into your jawbone. This is where things get really serious. It inflames the ligament that holds the tooth in its socket, and that's why the tooth suddenly becomes crazy painful to bite down on. And as your body sends in troops to fight the bacteria, a pocket of pus, an abscess, can form, leading to that classic swollen jaw.
Okay, it's time to talk about the procedure that has such a terrible reputation, but is actually the hero of this whole story. A root canal isn't what causes the pain, it's what ends the pain, by getting rid of the source of the infection once and for all.
Think of a root canal as a very logical, meticulous rescue mission. First, an opening is made to get inside the tooth. Then, using these tiny, precise instruments, the dentist cleans out all the dead tissue and bacteria. After that, the canals are thoroughly disinfected. And finally, this is the most crucial part, that now clean and empty space is completely sealed off to prevent anything from ever getting back inside.
The infection is gone, the canals are all sealed up. Awesome. But the mission is not over yet. Now we have to protect that tooth so it can last for the long term.
And this brings us to a huge myth about root canals. You always hear people say that a treated tooth is dead, and so it must be brittle. But that's just not true. The science is really clear on this. The tooth isn't weaker because the nerve is gone, it's weaker because of all the tooth structure that was lost to the original decay and the opening that was needed to clean it all out.
So how do you protect this weakened structure? Well, it all comes down to good engineering. There's a key concept here called the ferrule effect. I want you to imagine the metal bands that hold a wooden barrel together, keeping all the planks from splitting apart. A crown needs a solid ring of healthy tooth structure to grab onto, to provide that exact same kind of bracing effect and keep it from fracturing.
And this is where that final step comes in. The crown that goes on top, it's like a custom-fit helmet for your tooth. It does two critical jobs. It protects the tooth from the incredible forces of chewing, preventing it from cracking, and it provides the ultimate seal over the top, locking out bacteria for good.
So we've gone on this whole journey, from a living core, through a bacterial invasion and an all-out war, all the way to a high-tech rescue mission, and it's all just to save one single natural tooth. It really makes you think, doesn't it? When you're faced with that choice, what's the true value of keeping what we were born with?